I watched my mother take her last breath, right in front of me. It wasn't quick, like they say on TV. It was slow, and the worst part, I think she knew. That was the moment everything shattered. It started one hot afternoon during the dry season. The kind of heat that makes you too tired to even talk. I was home from school, back in the village for a long weekend, and as usual, our family house was full. My cousins, aunts, uncles, they all came together for our family meetings once a month. I never liked these gatherings. They were always noisy, and the tension between my mom and her brother's wife, Aunty Oma, made the air thick. They had been at odds for as long as I could remember, but nobody ever talked about why. On that day, something felt off. You know that feeling when your skin crawls, but you can't explain why. That was me from the moment I woke up. I ignored it. I shouldn't have. We had gathered in the living room. The adults were chatting, laughing loudly as we waited for the food to be served. My younger cousins were playing outside. I was sitting in the corner, scrolling through my phone, half listening to the adults talk about land, family, and all the usual village drama. Then, Aunty Oma walked in from the kitchen, carrying a large pot of jollof rice, her face calm as ever. She started dishing out plates for everyone, moving slowly and carefully. My mom, as usual, helped her. They had this way of working together where they didn't even have to speak. Even though they didn't like each other, they always shared the responsibility of feeding the family. I wasn't hungry, so I didn't join the others at the table. I stayed in the corner, my phone still in hand, pretending not to be interested. But then I noticed something strange. Aunty Oma kept glancing at my mother, small, quick looks. I thought maybe I was imagining it, so I brushed it off. Big mistake. It wasn't long before the first person slumped over. It was Uncle Uche, my dad's brother. His face twisted in pain, and he fell, his body hitting the floor with a loud thud. It happened so fast that no one even screamed. We all just froze. I jumped to my feet, heart racing. Then, Aunt Amoka clutched her stomach, groaning loudly before collapsing too. My cousin started crying, and panic broke out. People were shouting, screaming for help, rushing towards the fallen family members. It was chaos. My mom was holding her chest now, her breathing shallow, eyes wide with fear. She stumbled back, her hand reaching for something to hold on to, but there was nothing. She crashed into the table and slid to the floor. I ran to her, dropping to my knees. Mommy! Mommy, what's happening? I could hear my own voice, shaky and desperate, but she couldn't answer. She was struggling to breathe, her eyes losing focus. The realization hit me like a punch in the stomach. Someone had poisoned the food. My eyes darted around the room. 5 people were already down, gasping, their bodies limp, and the rest of us were too terrified to move. And then, I saw Aunty Oma. She stood at the far end of the room, arms crossed, watching. She wasn't panicking like the rest of us. No, she looked calm. Too calm. What did you do? I shouted at her. She didn't answer. She didn't even blink. The next few minutes were a blur. I ran outside to get help. Some neighbors rushed in, but it was too late. By the time we got my mom to the clinic, she was gone. The others were already in critical condition. The village elders called a meeting. People were whispering, pointing fingers, but nobody wanted to believe what had really happened. It was too horrifying to think about. Poison. In a family gathering. Who would do that? But I knew. A week later, after the funerals, the truth finally came out. Aunty Oma didn't deny it. She admitted to it all, poisoning the food, watching as her own family members died in front of her. I remember her words clearly. It was the only way to get justice. Justice. For what? For years, she had been secretly convinced that my mom had cursed her with bad luck. She blamed my mom for the loss of her children, for her sicknesses, for everything wrong in her life. She had been carrying this grudge, letting it fester until it consumed her. And in her twisted mind, poisoning the family was the only way to make things right. The elders handed her over to the police, but the damage was already done. Nothing could bring back the people we lost that day. And nothing could erase the memory of my mom, taking her last breath right in front of me. Aunty Oma didn't just poison the family, she destroyed it. Now, every time I go back to the village, there's a heaviness in the air. People still talk about it in hushed voices. The house where it happened stands empty, untouched, as if the walls themselves are too scared to remember. And me. I don't think I'll ever forget that look in her eyes, cold, unfeeling. How do you move on from something like that? How do you forgive someone who stole the very people you love? I don't know. Maybe I never will.